November is like the best time to trek to Everest. In one of your videos, I have seen that you mentioned about that water purification tablets. It's actually of no use.
Altitude sickness, I met some people on the trail that started feeling symptoms the second day, the third day. Hello and welcome to Travel Talk Everest Base Camp Edition. Right now, I am here with a very, very special person and I'm looking forward to talking travel and specifically Everest Base Camp. So Proma here is from Bangladesh and she is trekking Everest Base Camp in just a couple weeks, and I did it a few months ago. So we're just gonna have a real fun, informal conversation where she can ask some questions about her top 3 issues and concerns, and also we can just chit chat about what a fun trek that she has coming up. So yeah, please tell us a little bit about yourself and about your trek coming up, like who you're going with, whether you're with a guide or a group. Yes, tell us a little background on your trip coming up, and then we'll get into your questions.
Okay, thank you, Alex, for giving me this opportunity to share my expectations about this trip. So, hi all, good morning. I'm Proma. I work as recruitment officer in Decathlon, Bangladesh. So, as you know, Decathlon is a sports company, and I find myself perfectly aligned with my passion for sports, like running, cycling, martial arts, and here finally comes hiking the mountains. So I have been really passionate about hiking for last couple of years, and finally it's gonna see the light within next 2 weeks. And yes, I'm going
It's
to
coming
the
up. It's coming up.
yes, I'm going to the Mount Everest, the roof of the world, as you can say. And
Yes.
to be honest, I'm beyond excited. And I have got the mountain fever, that's all you can say.
Love
Yeah,
it.
that's the best way to describe it, I think.
Yeah, it's a real thing.
Uh,
I have it. Yeah, mountain
yeah.
fever. It's real.
Okay, so one thing really scared to face is, to be honest, the flight of Lugla. That reminds me of, boarding on the flight 180 of Final Destination
Oh
movie.
no. Oh man.
Yeah.
Yes, that is a great movie, but don't watch that. If you haven't seen that movie, wait till after your trek to watch it.
Okay, so the first exam would be if you survive the flight to Lugla, then you would definitely survive EBC. I mean, Everest Base Camp.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And my thoughts of
Yeah.
that flight was I was scared all the way up until about a day ahead of time, man, because the logistics of the flight become so consuming of like, are you good, of like what you have to pack and your weight, and then also hoping it doesn't get delayed, because if it gets delayed a lot, then your whole trip days get messed up, and then your return flights, or you may have to take a bus to another city to take another flight if the weather's bad. So it's almost like the logistics of the flight were so consuming for me that I kind of forgot to get scared. And I was just like grateful that I was like, all right, it's not, we actually landed. So that's my interesting perspective from the world's most dangerous flight.
True. Okay, so let's not discuss about the casualty and other stuff so that it will scare people off.
Yes.
Let's ditch that part.
Tell
Uh,
us, I guess, sorry to
yeah,
interrupt. I guess I'd love to maybe to hear
yeah.
about your physical background of, like, I think you mentioned you run marathons, I guess,
Yes,
or,
I
tell
ran
us about
marathon.
where or I guess where your physical level is. You seem very, very active and healthy. So do you have any other experience
Okay,
hiking other mountains and things like that?
okay. So I have never hiked before, so this would be my very first hike, that too in
Good for
Mount
you.
Everest. I know that's a very brave decision. However, I believe being physically fit is the first and foremost condition that one should go for the EBC. Those who have like a physical condition like asthma and then high blood pressure and other difficulties, I think they should not do it until and unless their physician tells them. Okay, yeah. About me, I am a black belt in martial art. I mean, in Shotokan Karate, I got my black belt. It's been almost 10 years. I sometimes
Nice.
practice karate and it gives me, a lot of strength and energy. How can I explain it? Like, I always feel like I'm very confident whenever or whatever situation arrives in front of me. And apart from that, I try to do the cardio at least weekly, 3 to 4 days. I try to hit the gym. And alongside, I also practice running. I run marathon probably 2 or 3 months, one marathon, or maybe it could be more frequent than that. So it's not,
Mm-hmm.
fixed. And yeah, that's all about my physical
Great.
preparation. And I think
Wow.
it's more important to focus on your mind as well. If you are mentally prepared, then the rest of the tasks become more easier. That's what I believe. So you need to be, very determined, very strong-minded people. Otherwise, it will be a
Mm-hmm.
real tough challenge, the EBC. Okay,
Right.
so next I hand over to you. You discuss. Let me know what should I share in this platform more
Yeah, I'd
so that
love
it
to. I guess
helps the
I
audience.
think, yeah, you meant so that I think that biggest concern being, I guess your first question, or I guess the big just being the altitude sickness. I think is that probably the biggest concern because that was my biggest one too, and because that's what makes Everest Base Camp trek so difficult is the uncertainty of what your body's going to be like at that high elevation. So yeah, so I grew up in Florida, spent most of my life at sea level. So going from, if your day-to-day life is at a very low elevation and then going and, even if you are physically fit, we're very similar in that realm. But it's the uncertainty of that some people get altitude sickness, some people don't. And I guess my tips on that are like two practical ones, and then the third tip is actually something a little more that I don't hear a lot of people talk about, except you actually kind of brought it up. So my advice on altitude sickness is, first is just the basic one of like drinking a lot of water. And that may seem like the most common, thing that everyone will say, but the logistics of drinking that much water is, it adds a lot because you have to, think about how you're going to get the water, if you're going to buy it or purify it and then carrying it. And so there's the logistics behind the water to actually, think about, because it's not as easy as, oh, let me just drink as much water, because you don't want to carry more weight than you need. So, but just basic hydration. The next one is, the speed element of, I think that was one of the things, if you watched my base camp video series, that I wish I did better was I went too fast. And I realized it's, Everest Base Camp is not a race. And I think if I would have slowed down and not thought it was a race, it does help. Not just especially I would, race through the day and then get to the tea house around 3 o'clock. And I would have enough time for like a nap during the day, which was nice. But I wish I would have enjoyed the trail more, spent more time but also it would have been better for my body to slowly, especially on those long days where you're climbing and climbing. That would have been the best thing to avoid it. But my biggest tip is you have no idea how it's going to affect you. Altitude sickness, I met some people on the trail that started feeling symptoms the second day, the third day. Some people never had any symptoms. Some people like me felt no symptoms until the very, very end. And so it didn't really seem to matter whether you were in shape or didn't shape. It was just everyone's body reacts differently. So my best piece of advice is the mental part of preparing your body to your mind gives up before your body. And just know that it's gonna be an uncomfortable hike during some portions, in terms of you're gonna be in uncomfortable, food you're not used to, climate you're not used to, around people maybe you're not used to. You're gonna be uncomfortable. And then also, you may have a headache, you may have a little bit of nausea, but it's nothing that is going to be so crippling unless you let it be crippling. Or I really do think it's an attitude of the adrenaline of wanting to get to base camp. And if you're stressing out about your headache, or you're letting other people in your group thrive or dwell in the negativity of like, oh, every step it does feel like someone's hitting your head with a rock. But if you just, is someone almost that you're familiar with it with a long distance runner, of you kind of getting your runner's high. And it's kind of like that. And when you're climbing, is you get really just in the zone, and you'd be surprised that even with altitude sickness, you don't let it ruin your trek. Looking back at my videos and memories of the days that I did have a headache, I don't even remember the headache. It's a very short term, and just know that don't be scared of getting altitude sickness. Just know that your mind is strong enough to still enjoy the hike in spite of it.
So, Lord, that was really insightful. But I do have some questions. Like, as in one of your videos, I have seen that you mentioned about that water purification tablets that we use for purify the water. It's actually of no use. So why
Hmm.
is it so? I have seen a lot of vloggers, lot of YouTubers that they claim that you definitely need to carry one of those, files that contains the water purification tablet. But in your video, I have seen which is a bit contradictory. So would you please
Yeah.
explain about it?
I think a lot of those videos, it's the environmental reasons that I think a lot of people are pushing those, but that comes directly from my guides that they didn't recommend using the purification tablets just for, I think it was a combination of convenience and just the water is just so dirty that why risk it? It was one of those things of like, you'll likely be fine. But if
Okay.
there, but if you tell me there's a solution that has a foolproof way, like there's a small chance that they may not work, or maybe you don't let it dissolve in time. To me, the price of water is still relatively very, very cheap. So to me, it wasn't a question. And when I'm also a very sweaty guy. I just sweat a lot. The amount of water that I was drinking was, so much that the waiting for the purification tablets and using them just would have slowed me down. And even when you're at higher elevations, to me, so I guess to sum up, it was convenience and just an absolute foolproof way not to get sick.
Okay, thanks a lot. So yeah, I'm taking notes on it. Okay, so it's wise to buy the water bottles rather than using the trail water and purify it, right? It makes you safe.
Yes, it's it's foolproof, and it is I made sure I disposed of all of the bottles properly, of course. So they do make it. I'm not like throwing them on the trail. I'm carrying in and carrying out everything, but just the amount of water and the ease that just for just a few dollars to get a fresh water bottle along the route was just the best way. And then also just looking at the water faucets that the water came out of, it was an easy choice. But yes, knowing that that is a controversial opinion from some. So it's a good question though.
Okay, so we talked about the physical challenges we might face. We
Hmm.
talked about the water issues and also covered, I think, many important parts. Now, I think we should discuss about the weather condition as well.
Hmm.
In most of your videos, you have mentioned that November is like the best time to trek to Everest. I mean, the first week of November, where the town of Lukla is less crowdy and rest of the facilities are available, and also the weather is very clean, not like muddy
Hmm.
or it's rainy or overcast is there. It's just the clean
Hmm.
and clear skies. So it's good for the photographs and also people will enjoy the time. It's not too cold, not harsh cold and everything. So yeah, so as you know that I'm going in the monsoon season, so which is
Yes.
I think really big challenges. So what do you think about it? What are your suggestions about it? Let me know.
Yeah. So, yes, I do think the best month is end of November, but I do think that there are some pluses and minuses. So obviously the minuses are going to be the maybe rain, monsoon, maybe more cloud coverage, more rain, but one of the good things is it's going to be a lot more, it's not going to be as cold. So a lot of the most challenging parts about my trek was the cold, especially being from a very warm place like Florida. I'm not used to that. And so that was actually the most difficult part of my trek, was dealing with the cold, especially at night. If I want to go stargazing, it was just so cold. Or even just dealing with the altitude. Everything becomes harder with the cold. So you don't have to deal with that. So that's why, even though, my opinion is maybe the best month is at end of November, there's still a lot of actually like cases to be made about when you're going. But I think the biggest thing to realize is how dusty the trail is. So that's going to be, especially it's going to, so we're looking at mud. I would consider gaiters around your boots. I'm not sure if you've seen those on any of your packing lists. So it's basically something that goes around the top of your hiking boot, and it keeps out dust and mud and snow, or really all the elements from going inside your shoe. So it saved me a lot just on the dust front, because the trail is so dusty but especially dealing with all the potential mud, a $10, or I don't know I think they were like less than $10 when I bought them, were gaiters. So that little piece, but I would definitely, it's gonna be dry fit, light layers. Obviously, the obvious, having a good, rain jacket, hat, but also, being able to have light layers of like dry fit shirts and underwear, so that way you can hopefully rotate in case you are getting rained on. A couple other small pieces of equipment that you may not think of is a poncho for your backpack. Some of those are basic. Some people didn't have those, and you'll definitely really, really wish. Some backpacks come with it. Others you can just buy. It's basically just like a poncho for your backpack. It's got a stretchy thing that you just stretch around it.
Yes.
That makes
I already got one. Thank you for the tips. But about the gated thing, I didn't think about it. But now, as you have mentioned, it is very essential to protect your boots, shoes from muds, dust, and everything. So yes, I'm definitely getting it. I messed out this one. So yeah, thanks a
Yes.
lot again.
Yeah, and so with that, I think, the trail is, there was not a lot of areas of slippage. I mean, when I think of monsoon, I think of rain, but, you'd be surprised the towns when you're walking through the villages, a little bit of water, especially if, like of just being very cautious being very step cautious. It's one of those things that you don't really think about, especially hiking where I'm from in America. A lot of the trails, some of them can be flat, whereas Everest is very, very rocky and uneven the whole way. I've met many people that twisted their ankles walking through the villages, because the village, so you really have to be almost, it may seem, this was the mental, how much it was a mental drain. Hiking all day was just, you can't enjoy you do enjoy the view, but you have to stop walking and enjoy the view, because if you're not paying attention to every step you're making, you could twist an ankle. You're not going to fall down a mountain or anything, but you're going to slip. So with the monsoon season, definitely comes, slipping. And then the last piece of advice, I think, would be to time your days well, knowing that if you have, there's a lot more time in each day than you need to hike. So if it means maybe, looking at if it's going to be raining in the morning, yeah, maybe waiting, not starting your trek that early, or if it is going to rain in the afternoon. So just being strategic, and then also with your group, I think just being a positive influence. A lot of groups, there's always going to be one complainer of the group, and I think I could tell someone with your upbeat personality to really, I've done a lot of rain hikes, and they're really not that bad. You're still in a beautiful place. A little mud never hurt anybody. A little rain a little water never hurt anybody. But you'd be surprised how much that positive attitude can be infectious amongst your group. So hopefully you have everyone's positive in your group. But in my experience, sometimes when you're with new people, there's always the one complainer of the group. So.
Okay, so one bonus question
Yes,
that is,
please.
I think will be helpful for me as well as the audience as well. So, what one thing that no one should miss out during their hike in Everest? Just name out one thing.
Oh, I would say um, the not being afraid to interact with the locals, the villagers, the people that work at the tea houses, the people, and try the people of Nepal, especially in these village communities. They come from a long history of, this is their livelihood, this is their, they're not like people that moved into the country to work these jobs. These are true locals. And some people, yes, the mountain views are great. Stargazing is great. But the one thing I loved about the trip was the cultural experience, and also going beyond. Don't be afraid to go beyond your comfort zone in terms of, maybe even asking your guide to help translate for you, and to actually have a conversation, or using Google Translate. Don't be the more outgoing you are, the more you'd be surprised of the genuine conversations you'll have with, not just the people working in these villages, the store owners, but the porters. They don't speak English, but there's somebody usually around that can translate for you, or just use translation app, and just so many genuine conversations. As fun as it is talking with other trekkers from around the world, I think it's more unique to spend as much time as you can talking with the locals, the porters, the trekkers, and also, they're very nice and polite. So maybe even come up with some, use specific questions. Like I love asking, what's the funniest hiking story you have, or what's the biggest hiking disaster you've had? There's so many stories. After dinner each night, everybody opens up their phone, and you'll get cell service sometimes, or Wi-Fi. I'd say don't even put that down, and have some story time with the locals. So that's the one piece of advice you never hear people talk about, but it was just something that meant a lot to me in my trip, and a lot of the memories I have are with those people, and hearing those stories.
No, I'm really appreciating it that this is how you actually I think best way to utilize your time. If you travel or if you trek, you should always be respectful towards the culture. Also, you should make friends with locals. So
Yes.
yeah, and I think we are almost at the end of our discussion. So the very last thing that I can go for, that is
Yeah.
the hygiene part during the trail. So I'm really worried, especially being a female. Maybe it's sometimes challenging because, as I have come to know that there are not, available amount of restrooms or washrooms when you hike. The higher elevation it is, the lower the opportunities to get well equipped washrooms or facilities. So, for females, I think it is
Yes.
more challenging. So, what do you think about it?
Yes, I asked a lot of females along the trail how they, because they're along the tea houses are only at the beginning and end of each day, but along throughout the hike, a lot of there will be some lunch spots where you can have like a proper toilet, but a lot of times on the trail, especially when you're drinking a lot of water, just like they tell you to, sometimes the trail bathroom is just out in nature. So I guess my biggest advice, well, preparing yourself for that, obviously bringing out, you have to bring your own toilet paper and everything you would need, but also not being shy, especially if you're hiking with a bunch of guys who may not think about it. When I was with groups and asking about this, is they would actually coordinate their bathroom breaks in terms of, like, if you're going off trail a little bit, or you can't go off trail too much because you'll fall off a mountain, but if you're going, they would actually kind of stop traffic. And it was something where if you ask, especially if you're ask whether it's your guide or other people in the group that you're hiking with, of, hey, I have to use the restroom, can you just stand there, so that way in case anyone walks by, you just say like, oh, hold on, someone's using the bathroom. So I actually saw someone do that. They stopped me on the trail. I was like, oh, that's actually a good idea. So if you're afraid of, oh man, there's too many people on the trail, or or I'm afraid of someone seeing me, just ask. You'll be surprised what the little tricks like that, I think also just being vocal with your guides, because they actually will know a lot of the villages along the way, so they can maybe help tell you of, like, all right, there's a village coming up in 20 minutes, or oh, there's a village coming up in 2 hours, so you can maybe hold it or not hold it. And again, unless you ask, they're not going to just announce these things. So you have to really, you have to ask. So those are my 3 tips. Be prepared mentally. Ask people to stop. If you're going on the trail, just ask, someone to, stop traffic for a couple minutes for you to do that. And then third one is just be vocal with your guide on telling you when the next village is, so you can actually use a proper toilet.
Okay, so thanks a lot, Alex. One last thing that I think I should add in this
Yeah.
discussion, that it's not a question from my end, but it's basically could be a greater could be a great tips if anyone can follow. That is, there are some backpacking mistakes that we usually tend to do, right? For example, we pack up a lot of unnecessary stuff which are not
Hmm.
actually required. But also, it gets customized as per the demand of the weather. So how can we make it more efficient as per you?
Yeah,
The
I'm a big overpacker as well, and
yes,
I learned the first, like you'll see a
you
lot even
told
my
me that.
videos, yeah, of like my day bag was so heavy. Now even without, obviously I had a bunch of batteries and stuff, but the way I thought of it was a lot of the conveniences of like toiletries. I didn't, of like I wanted like shampoos and things to clean my body. Like took up a lot of time, but at the end of the day, and the bathrooms in the tea houses weren't even that nice to even like. It was really hard to even just. I mean, it was a big effort to just brush your teeth every night and every morning, which
Yes,
is like the
just
bare
to
minimum.
add I do one thing, sorry to interrupt, but I definitely need to mention this thing that I heard that after Lugla or probably the Namche Bajar, you won't even be able to take a decent shower for like next couple of days. So I think
Yes.
people should be mentally prepared about it.
Yes, and to me it
Yes.
was so cold that you didn't want, even if it was available, you were too scared to, so that'll be something where you'll be able to use baby wipes and things like that to
Yes,
stay
wheat
clean. But yeah,
wraps.
the bare minimum of even brushing your teeth was hard, just because you obviously have to use bottled water or some type of purified water, and then the sinks and everything weren't a lot of general facilities. So I had a bunch of like toiletries and things like that I didn't use. I also didn't brought way too much clothes. Especially I rewore stuff a lot. I would rewear underwear. I'd rewear, and so by the end of it, I had it's like you don't need three sweaters. You could just get by with one. And I think now you're going to be maybe getting wet some days, so maybe that might. But you'll just bring more. I had to bring thick layers. You could just bring more thin layers. But a lot of it also is you're not going to be thinking of all the comforts. So anything that is like you don't need, I'd say after especially the second day, you're going to want that weight, so being cautious of thinking of the what you want, the wants you have versus the weight. And you don't trying on that backpack in your hotel the night before may not seem that bad, but think about 2 solid weeks with that thing. And also people forget to add water to their day bag, and that weighs it down as well. So yeah, you'll definitely that is a good piece of advice. Of don't forget, weight. Weight is energy. Weight is that backpack. Other than sleeping, that backpack is on you a long time. Yeah, and I guess I don't have any. I guess I have one. Since this has been like a what are your concerns, I have just one question for you, then I know you have to go. But what is the one thing you're looking forward to the most? What is the one positive thing that you're just like, I can't wait to feel this or to be at this, or just what is the one thing first thing that comes to mind?
Uh, to endure the sight of Mount Everest peak.
Yeah,
So
it
this
is.
is
Yeah.
why I think probably this is the only reason I have chosen to hike Everest Base Camp. Many of my friends and colleagues told me to go for Annapurna. You heard about it, right?
Oh
Annapurna
yeah.
Base Camp.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's much more easier, and I think it's 4,100 something meter. But
Mm-hmm.
Everest is more higher, and it's more challenging for the first time trekkers, especially. But yes, so yeah, it's the peak that actually
It is. It
invites me.
is.
Come visit me. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I remember seeing Everest for the first time and then seeing it at base camp. And it is not like a smack you in the face type of, oh my God, it looks so big. It's this like, it's just this weird, it's one of those powerful, because it blends in with the other peaks. But then once you get a clear sight of it, it's this deep feeling in your stomach that I've never felt before. I've looked at mountains all over the world, and it's just the reputation, the struggle, and just looking at the top of the world. It really just it humbles you as a human. It just makes you all it is at its might. So I can't wait to talk with you hopefully after your trek and hear about the things you learned and hear about your journey. But I will just say it is just just soak it all in have fun, and watch your step. Be safe.
Thanks a lot. I think all your tips will make my journey much more easier. And the one great thing that you shared about how easily we can tackle the different situations. And I think this whole discussion has been very insightful. And I hope I was an active listener as well, and I took the notes as well. So let's see how I can face the challenge, also get the great experiences of my life, and I can't wait to join the next discussion with you. Yeah,
Yes. All right. Thank you so much. Bye, everybody.
most welcome. See you soon.
See you
Bye.
soon. That's a wrap for today's episode of Alex Travels Far podcast. Thanks for coming along on this journey. If you've enjoyed this, make sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Want more travel stories? You can find me on YouTube at Alex Travels Far Vlogs, where I share even more adventures and in-depth travel guides. Want exclusive travel tips and behind-the-scenes updates? Sign up for the Alex Travels Far newsletter. You'll get exclusive vlog updates, exact Google Map locations, expert travel tips. It's free, no spam, just real travel insights straight to your inbox. Sign up now at alextravelsfar.com. Until next time, keep exploring, keep traveling, and as always, travel far.